Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven. This is Northwest Small Batch Brewing, and this is going to be a short video, I promise, because I have been under the weather, not feeling well for several weeks. In fact, I still can't hear out of one ear, really. Something going around. I'm on my last day of antibiotics, so hopefully something happens here soon. At any rate, the question is... really not a question, but I feel like if you ask any home brewer, the most important aspect of getting a good beer, a good finished beer, is managing the cold side. So you can get all the perfect scores, hit all your points on your, your mash and your boil and have a perfect amount, ready to put in the fermenter, but it can all go to pot if you're not managing your temperature control on your fermenter on the cold side. So this time of year, it's starting to get cold, right? It's October at the time of this filming, almost November. And let's be honest, it's getting cold. The house is getting cold. Depending on where you are fermenting your beer, you might have it in your basement, you might have it in your garage. It's cold. It's going to get colder. Depending on what part of the country you're in, it's going to get really cold. So during the summer, we worry about getting too hot. Now that we're in the winter, unless you're able to ferment inside your house where you're keeping the temperature controlled, now we have to worry about it's going to be too cold to ferment. What's going to happen if your beer is too cold while it's fermenting? Well, it's going to stall. That's the biggest fear. I don't know that you'll really get that many off flavors, but it's going to stall because the yeast is going to fall asleep. It just doesn't function if the wort is too cold. So we need to keep it at a decent temperature. So what's the easiest way to do that? Some of us, like myself, I have a freezer that I've used as a fermentation chamber where I can, hook it up to an Inkbird and tell it I want it to kick the freezer on to keep it below a certain temperature. But what about the other direction, keeping it warm? Well, the cool thing about the Inkbird, and I'd show it to you, I'll throw up a picture because I don't want to disconnect it. I'm using it right now. But the Inkbird, there's lots of temperature controllers out there. The Inkbird, unless you've been under a stone somewhere, you might have noticed that there's been like a whole bunch of videos a few weeks ago, a month ago. It depends when you're watching this video, but a bunch of YouTubers did like paid advertisements basically for this Inkbird.
All right, so what's in the box? It's the Inkbird 308 models.
So Inkbird sent me their ITC 308 dual relay temperature controller to play with.
So today we're going to review the Inkbird ITC 308. This is a temperature controller that's going to solve all of our problems.
And so the truth is, it is a great product. What I really like about the Inkbird, and by the way, this is not a paid advertisement for Inkbird, but it has two plugins, right? It has the cold and the hot. You can set both on it. Whereas I have another one from another company I'm not going to mention, but it only has cold. It has like a single plug-in, so you can only do cold or warm. You can't go back and forth between the two. At any rate, the easiest way, in my opinion, to keep your beer at the right temperature this time of year is what's sitting right here on my table, a reptile mat. These are cheap. You can get them on Amazon. This sucker, you can sort of wrap it around your fermenter and tape it. You could use like string or something to tie it tight. If you have a fermentation chamber like I do, the other option is you don't really have to like have it sitting right next to the fermenter at all, because your Inkbird has a probe on it. And what I do is I just tape the probe to the side of my fermenter where the wort line is, and then I put a little bit of insulation over it, like foam or something, to get a really as close a reading as I can without having to actually put the probe into the fermenter. If you have a thermowell, it's even better, but I don't. That's another video. I'll get into that, why I don't. But at any rate, I just set this mat inside my little fermentation freezer. And as it heats up, because the fermentation chamber is closed, it traps the heat in there. And eventually it gets warm enough to heat up the wort to the temperature it needs to be at. And then, of course, the temperature controller, the Inkbird, shuts off. You'll notice these things don't have an on-off button on them. So you need that temperature controller to plug this into to tell it when to start and stop and turn it on and off. Otherwise, it's going to keep heating into whatever its default, heat setting is, which is not what you want. You want it to be able to turn on and off to sort of maintain the temperature that you want. So if you have a chamber, just throw it in there and put it on the temperature controller, like the Inkbird, and you're set. If you don't have a temperature or a chamber that you're putting your beer in, and you're just having it in your cellar or maybe in the garage or something, wrap this thing around it. Some people just put it under it, like they'll set their fermenter on top of the mat. I'm not sure if that works better or not, but either way, hook that up to your temperature controller so that you can set it to the temperature you want, and then you can help make sure that the yeast stays active and doesn't fall asleep during the cold winter. Winter's coming, my friends.
I know this is hard for you, but winter is coming.
That's really all I had to tell you. I know it's sort of a simple video, but it is one of the most important aspects of brewing, is maintaining the right temperature for your fermentation, or you're going to have beer that doesn't ferment, or it's going to have off flavors from being fermented too warm. So this is how you control the cold side of it when it gets too cold and you need to keep your beer at a warmer temperature. I hope that helps. That, if you haven't thought of that before, that's what I'm doing anyway, and it's been working for me. And then, until next time, thanks for stopping by. I'll have another video soon. Hopefully I'll be feeling better and I'll be able to hear out of both ears. And until then, keep on brewing.